my identity ran out. Not my identity card, although I think my driving license has. But no, my identity ran out. It's old. It no longer fits. It doesn't work anymore. And I realised that it never actually did. I mean, what do I identify as now? Or with? What ID do I have? I've been playing around with that a little bit. The id, I don't know, I think it's Freud, das S or something like that, but I've always known it as the id. But anyway, I looked at it, I thought, well, the id, it's an id entity. It doesn't, the word itself, identity, doesn't, it's not correct to say it's made up that way. But just play with me for a minute. If the id is das S, the it, the id entity is the it entity, and it's often considered to be fixed. Oh, that's Paul over there, and Paul is this, and Paul does those things, and that's Paul. Recognise him as Paul. And technically identity is the sameness of the thing that you know, so it's recognisably the same. But identity isn't fixed at all. I mean, I think most people can accept that. Identity is fluid. It's malleable. It is certainly not fixed. And now, I'm going to use this word because that's what I've come to understand. Now is my identity. Here is my identity. I am everything that is now and here. There is no separation or distinguishing within that. These sounds, I don't know if you can hear the birds, these feelings, sensations, observations, that they're all me. They're all now. They're all here. There's no way to say that I am in them or of them or part of them. They're all my experience, and my experience is now, it is here, and it is me. And the identity that is still here, I look at a photo, and that photo is now, and it is here, but it isn't me. And it's not the sameness of me. My ID just expired. I mean, I don't know what I was holding on to. And there's a point when I couldn't find the one that I was holding on, to it either. Which might sound alarming, but it isn't really. What's here instead is just this. The here that's always here. Right now it's Wednesday evening, there's birds. It's this. It's me apparently talking and recording. The now that anything appears in. It's fresh, it disappears, it's fresh, it appears again. I mean, you can't like photograph this for an ID card. It hasn't got a dimension, there's no date of expiry. Well, because there's no time, there's no date you can apply to it. And then nothing disappeared. I'm still here. Preferences, memories, habits, opinions about things, they're all still showing up. They don't show up with the same veracity, I guess. It's like I might think, oh, I'm going to fast today, and then I get up and do my morning routine, and I find myself making a coffee and cooking something. And then I suddenly realise it's like, oh, the idea of fasting had nothing to do with that, with what's actually going on. Yeah, so they're more like floating in something that was always much bigger than them anyway, so a bit like the weather, I guess. Although I'm not the weather. I'm somewhere else kind of watching it, I guess. But even that's not true. No, I'm what the weather happens in. And yeah, again, that's too solid a way of putting it. It's too kind of material. You know, now is a container for it all, but how can you contain something that's unlimited? Or how can the container appear when it is itself unlimited? Yeah, doesn't work. But yeah, I mean, the mind picks up the old idea again. Does it? It's a habit. But it's got no purchase anymore. It's a little bit like writing on water. I think Muji said that. I like that, writing on water. And it's a kind of a free fall, but without the falling anymore. You know, the panic isn't there. It's just like, oh, it's this again. That's okay. I used to imagine that realizing any of this would feel like arriving somewhere, you know, actually getting somewhere, some sort of permanent upgraded state. You know, like you've leveled up, achievement unlocked, you know, and then you keep that one forever, don't go back. But it's nothing like that. No, it's more like a background you never noticed because you were kind of completely fixed on the foreground. And then when the foreground loses its grip, and it does gradually, or sometimes all at once, the background doesn't become the new foreground, it just stops being ignored. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, actually. It's like the search for the end of suffering stops, and the energy that went into that, into seeking, is now so interested in this kind of background that's no longer a background. It's just, yeah, it stops being ignored. So I guess if your ID is feeling a bit expired lately, if the picture doesn't quite match anymore, and if the name feels slightly borrowed, if the whole thing is somehow, I don't know, thinner than it used to be, that's not a crisis. Maybe it's just, you know, getting ready to notice what was holding it all along. Anyway, the birds are doing their thing. It's still Wednesday evening. And I'm done for now. Speak soon.